So I'm sure you guys have heard something quite similar to this, but I've personally heard this a lot of times, honestly, but I've heard a lot of people say that Modern Warfare might be the next great Call of Duty game, or even the next great game to even come out, and I've always kind of brushed this off, being all like, well, I mean, we're in 2019, and I mean, last I checked, with the last few hundred CODs, it seems that people aren't really happy with Call of Duty, and they always like to hate on it and that stuff, so that's why I always brush it off. But honestly, with all the information slowly coming out for Modern Warfare, it seems like there is a possibility this could really be a really good game. I mean, just think about everything we've learned about this game. At first, I mean, we learned about how crossplay is going to be inside this game, which is a humongous yes. I mean, how many of us have been asking for that for years, really, like literal years? I mean, me personally, I've always had a problem with this because I always had the wrong console compared to my friends, and it was just like never really could play with them. But it's just nice to see. And then, of course, after that, they introduced that, or they told us that they're not going to have a season pass for this game, which is something that was actually a fast response to a negative feeling towards season passes, because a negative feeling towards season passes didn't start until Black Ops 4, and just the next game over, they're already gone, or at least a major negative feel towards them. So, that was another huge yes. I mean, we're not going to have to pay $50 on top of an already $60 game, and that had already been great. And then, of course, one thing that everybody's been asking for Call of Duty for years now is a new engine, and we got a new engine finally, another huge yes. And I mean, all of those were great, but even today it gets even better, because today Activision came out and said they're not going to have loot boxes inside Modern Warfare or in Call of Duty going forward. They're done with them, and that is just the biggest yes out of all of them. I mean, honestly, who among us would have expected Activision to do this? Or, I mean, at least for me personally, I didn't expect them to take out loot boxes unless they were forced to by law. But, I mean, last I checked, there's not a law going out to, get them in trouble for all of this. So, it seems like they're just doing it by themselves, which is something I personally thought would never happen. And I couldn't be more excited. But real quick, I do want to kind of look over everything that was said, because there is a lot of skepticism to be had here today, because, I mean, people will look back to what happened last year with Black Ops 4, because, there was like people saying there weren't going to be loot boxes, but it was nothing definite. I mean, it was just things suggested that there wasn't going to be loot boxes. They never definitely said that, but a lot of people would tell you they definitely said there wasn't going to be loot boxes inside Black Ops 4. But regardless, I mean, we all know the story of Black Ops 4. It didn't launch with any loot boxes, then it added reserve cases, but the reserve cases really weren't, they didn't have anything in them. And then later they added a couple cosmetic things that were cool that people wanted, and then finally they added guns in there. And then I stopped playing Black Ops 4's multiplayer. But regardless, I feel like it's different from that, because this year they are not kind of playing around with their words, saying something that could be interpreted different ways. They're definitely saying there's not going to be loot boxes inside Call of Duty going forward. They are actually saying that. And I just want to read a couple lines from the blog post that they actually released today talking about this. And I'm going to start off with this first one. This first point that they have here is, we are introducing a new battle pass system, not a loot box system, which is just like right there. You can't interpret that any other way, and I just can't tell you that they're going to kind of go back on the word and say, oh, we didn't mean like that. I mean, there's no other way to interpret this besides them saying they're not having a loot box system in there, which is great. And of course, a lot of people are concerned about this, that later on down the road they're going to add loot boxes inside their game, but they even addressed this too in this exact same blog post. It says, understandably, there are still questions around how the economy will evolve throughout the post-launch live seasons. We recognize this will take time to fully demonstrate. Please know we are committed to delivering a fair system guided by the principles we have outlined here, and will continue to monitor feedback and player engagement to help us achieve that goal. And I mean, they say right here that they're going to deliver a fair system guided by the principle they outlined here. And I mean, what's one of the principles they put here? I mean, it's exactly what I read just a while ago. There's not going to be a loot box system, which is just great to hear. And I've never really trusted Activision. I'm not saying we should trust them on this, but they by far haven't earned that. But still, I mean, if they don't keep to their word, that's going to be the biggest yikes in the history of not only Call of Duty but gaming. But it just to me, I want to believe that this is not the case. They're not going to lie about this and make this big ol' yikes, and they're actually going to keep true to that. And I just feel like that is going to be the case. And of course, because of this, people are going to be worried, well, how are they going to do guns then now? I mean, how are they going to make their money if they're not going to make it through loot boxes? Well, they explained that obviously there's a battle pass, but there's also a premium battle pass, which, you know, is a thing. And people are saying, oh, they're probably going to lock the guns behind the premium battle pass, or you're going to have to buy the guns directly or something like that. But they also said this, I'll read it directly from the blog post once again, where it says all functional content that has an impact on in-game balance, such as base weapons and attachments, can be unlocked by simply playing the game. I mean, there's no purchasing there, so, you know, I mean, the worst they could do is just make it a really long grind, which I just don't think they're actually going to make it too difficult and make it impossible, because, you know, just think about the backlash from that. Of course, that's not all of the reasons why I believe that we're actually not going to get loot boxes at all, because there's something that has been very convincing for me. And this, of course, all the other things that they're saying, definitely, they're saying throughout the evolution of this game, they're not going to change it. They're going to go by the principles they outlined here, which, of course, one of the principles was them saying there was going to be loot boxes. But what really stands out to me more than anything is a now deleted Charlie Intel tweet. And I think the reason that the Charlie Intel had to delete this is because they're not allowed to say what happens inside certain meetings, and I think they did, and that's why they deleted it. But I still want to read it off for you guys because I still have it a screenshot here. But what it says is, sources have told Charlie Intel that Activision's president Rob Kostick reportedly referred to the company as Microtrans Activision in a recent meeting because of the reputation that the company has right now. He wants to change that, which, I mean, first things first, how did us now in the community come up with such an epic name for Activision? I mean, Microtrans Activision? How did Rob, the president of Activision, come up with this, but not the millions of Call of Duty fans or Activision game players? I mean, it's just crazy. It's so hilarious too. It works so well. It's hilarious. It works so well, and it's just great. Microtrans Activision, man. Big shout outs for him for coming up with such an amazing name for his own company. I mean, it's his own company, but for the president of the company that's in charge of all this stuff to say this, I mean, it feels very reassuring to me. And again, we shouldn't take this as 100%. We should still be skeptical, but still, I mean, when you see all these things like this, it's just great to see. I mean, I don't know what else to say about it, except it's reassuring to say the very least. But one last thing I want to say in regards to this is that there's still a little bit more, because it seems like that this isn't going to be a Modern Warfare thing. This is going to be a Call of Duty thing going forward. And the reason we know this is because if we look at a Treyarch tweet, it says right here, this is talking about the article or the blog post that I just read. This is what Treyarch was linking to, but of course they say, this is great news for the community today from Call of Duty, starting with Modern Warfare, and then of course linking to the blog post I just said. So it seems like starting with Modern Warfare, then Call of Duty going forward is not going to have loot boxes anymore. And I mean, honestly, that is the best thing, because, I mean, let's be honest, loot boxes have screwed Treyarch games more than any other games. I mean, honestly, just think about Black Ops 3 and Black Ops 4. Like, the microtransaction system has been the problem, or the main problem inside those games. Of course, they had other problems, especially with Black Ops 4, but that was definitely one of the biggest problems with their games. And I can imagine Treyarch, among all the developers, are the most excited for this, because, you know, it's been screwing over the game for years now, and finally, you know, they don't have to worry about that burden anymore. And what I mean, I could just imagine how excited they are. I mean, probably almost as excited as we are, because, I mean, just think about this. For years now with Call of Duty games, we didn't only have to worry about the game being good, but we had to always worry about, you know, what if the microtransactions are predatory? What if they aren't good or unfair or pay to win? And they're just things like that, because how annoying is it to when you just want a good game, but then it's ruined by a bad microtransaction system? I mean, just look at Black Ops 3. That's the best example of it. Black Ops 3 could have been one of the all-time greatest Call of Duty games if it wasn't for its poor microtransaction systems, at least in my opinion. And for us not to have to worry about this in the future, it's just nice to going back to just worrying about if the game is good and not about microtransactions and predatory things like that. And I'm just so happy about that. It's just so nice to see that we could just go back to worry about just a game being good. I mean, how long has it been? Like 6 years now since we were able to worry about that? I don't know, but regardless, I think that this is just great news, and Modern Warfare has a ton of potential, and Call of Duty going forward is going to have a ton of potential. I'm just excited to see what happens. But real quick, if you guys don't really care about this, you guys feel free to click off, but you know, before you do that, you know, do the normal YouTube stuff like subscribe, bell, share, and all that great stuff. But before I end this video, I don't know what I'm going to be doing for Modern Warfare's launch. Should I do campaign, spec ops? I'm not doing multiplayer, guys. Like multiplayer is just so saturated that I don't think my channel can succeed, and with the lack of zombies in the game, it leaves me worried. I mean, I'm excited for Modern Warfare, but I'm worried about my channel because I just don't really know what I'm going to do without zombies. I mean, should I try to do spec ops? I definitely am going to be playing campaign. Should I do that? I don't know. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that, but regardless, that's about it for me. If you guys did enjoy the video though, then go ahead, do all the normal YouTube stuff, like, subscribe, bell, share, and all that great stuff. But I'm going to go, and I'll catch you guys next stream, video, or whatever it may be, and laters, guys.